Welcome back to Psycast. We are the NPCs, ready to explore another fascinating corner of the gaming worlds we all love. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Castia. Yeah, so excited to jump into this one today.
Always great to have you here. And seriously, none of this happens without the incredible work from Psyguy.
Oh, totally.
Who gathers and synthesizes all the material that you get to talk about. Absolute legend.
Couldn't agree more. Psyguy is the real MVP. And look, speaking of things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
If you happen to hear any weird pops or clicks or, sudden audio shifts today, just tell yourself it's the tech gremlins performing a random encounter. We're trying our best to keep them corralled, but, well, sometimes they escape the dungeon.
Yeah. Sounds like battling unexpected bugs in early access, doesn't it?
Right.
You think you've patched them all, then bam, a wall disappears. But hopefully we're not glitching through any walls today.
Hopefully not.
Instead, we're taking a look at a game that really felt like it was trying to glitch through the established RPG formula back in, 99? Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh, FF8, now we're talking visually. I mean, it was just stunning for the time, right? Yep. Especially compared to 7.
Big difference.
Core Square went for much more realistic character models. I remember seeing that opening cinematic and just being completely blown away on my PS1. It felt cinematic in a way games hadn't quite achieved before,
Yeah.
And the music, oh, wow. Uematsu absolutely delivered.
You hit on something key there, that visual shift, from this sort of super deformed style.
Blocky look.
To those more realistically proportioned characters. On the original PlayStation, no less, that was a major statement.
Totally.
It definitely pointed towards where the series was heading visually. And yeah, the music. Eyes on Me. The first main theme with vocals felt like a movie soundtrack.
It really did. It pushed boundaries, not just graphically and musically, but in gameplay, too. They threw out the traditional magic point system and gave us draw and junction. That was the
different is one way to put it. Okay, let's unpack that, because central to both the gameplay and the story of FF8 are these entities called Guardian Forces, or GFs.
Right, the GFs.
The game's lore calls them the Summons, or mighty autonomous energy bodies.
Yeah.
They're not just summons you cast in combat. Those animations were next level for 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Really something else.
What I found fascinating, just going back through the material Psyguy put together, is how utterly linked GFs are to character progression.
Yeah, through junctioning.
Exactly. Via that junction system. It wasn't just about leveling up anymore. By junctioning a GF to a character, you were fundamentally changing their base stats.
Mm-hmm.
Boosting strength, magic, defense, speed. It opened up so many ways to customize your party. It was pretty deep.
Exactly. You'd use the draw command on enemies or special draw points, right?
Yeah.
Stock up to 100 units of various spells.
Yeah.
And then you could attach those spells to your stats.
Yeah.
Using the GF as the link.
Right. The GF enabled it.
One squall to hit like a truck. Junction, 100 copies of a powerful spell like Triple, maybe refined from high-level cards.
Oh, the card game? Yeah.
Need Quistis to dodge more. Junction haste to her evasion stat. It was a completely different kind of puzzle compared to just, grinding levels or equipping gear.
And that puzzle created a constant tension, didn't it?
It really did.
Do you use those powerful stocked spells in battle for damage or healing, knowing it drops your stats?
Right, you lose the boost.
Or do you hoard them, maybe never casting a single spell, just to keep your junctions totally optimized? It added this really deep strategic layer. But let's be honest.
Yeah.
It also meant spending a lot of time hitting the draw command over and over.
The drawing. I remember hours just sitting there waiting for the animation, hitting draw again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a point of contention for players.
For sure.
And you could absolutely break the game early if you spend enough time playing Triple Triad.
Yeah.
Refining cards in a top-tier magic right near the start. You could walk around with maxed out stats before the first real boss, completely trivializing the early combat.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly balanced design from a strategic RPG perspective.
Right. It definitely felt like it rewarded that kind of min-maxing to an extreme degree, almost discouraging actual magic use in combat in favor of just pure stat boosts.
Yeah.
But, for players who clicked with it, that level of optimization was incredibly rewarding. And I appreciate that the remaster added features like speed boosts and battle assist to make that drawing grind less painful for modern players. Quality of life updates make such a huge difference in games like this, don't they?
They absolutely do. essential sometimes. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a little controversial from a narrative standpoint.
Okay.
This power, this junction system tied to GFs, it comes at a significant cost. Prolonged use of guardian forces is shown to cause memory loss in their human hosts.
Yeah. What struck me reviewing the notes was how this memory loss isn't just some, like, background lore detail. It's fundamental to the story.
Absolutely essential.
It directly impacts the main characters' relationships and their understanding of their own past. The core group, Squall, Zell, Cypher, Selfie, Quistis, they all grew up together in that orphanage, Idea's orphanage.
Right, with Surin Idea.
But they have zero memory of it because of the GFs they started using later.
Yeah, the explanation is that the GFs are said to reside in the same part of the brain where memories are stored, and they gradually erode them. This wasn't just a clever excuse for amnesia, you know.
No, it felt baked in.
It was built directly into the main gameplay system. It forces the narrative to explore themes of identity, the importance of shared history, how bonds are formed even if the specific memories are gone. It's a risky narrative choice, linking power gain directly to loss of self.
So junctioning GFs becomes this fascinating, almost Faustian bargain, right?
That's a good way to put it.
You gain immense power, maybe break the game, but you lose your own personal history and the connections tied to it. It adds this layer of dramatic weight that you rarely see so directly tied to the core gameplay loop of an RPG. It really makes you think about the trade-offs.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears slightly from the mechanics and story implications, let's talk about the mighty autonomous energy bodies themselves, the GFs.
Yeah, the designs.
The creative minds behind them were pushing boundaries visually, too. The art director, Yusuke Naora, apparently wanted a bright, fresh Final Fantasy look, using detailed lighting and shadows, which was a big contrast to the darker, more industrial look of FFVI.
Yeah, ECU was very grimy, wasn't it?
It was. And Tetsuya Nomura, the character designer who also directed battle visuals,
Nomura, yeah,
was key to the GF look.
Yeah.
He really wanted them to feel like unique bees, not just monsters or people in suits. He didn't want them to have clothes or like human-like concepts. He wanted them to feel truly alien or elemental.
You can really see that.
That vision, combined with the technical limits of the PS1 and Nomura's push for more cinematic summon animations, it resulted in some truly iconic and distinct designs. I read that the creation of Leviathan, you know, the massive water GF,
Oh, yeah, Leviathan's awesome.
was actually a kind of test case for the team to see how well they could translate 2D concepts into animated 3D on that hardware. Pretty cool to think about.
And you see that blend of familiar and unique influences in the actual GF roster. You have your classics, right? Quetzalcoatl, Shiva, Ifrit.
Big balls.
Those feel like staples of the series, drawing on Aztec, Hindu, Middle Eastern mythology. They're powerful, elemental, instantly recognizable to FF fans.
But then you get things like Brothers, those dual minotaurs based on Greek myth with their quirky rock, paper, scissors attack.
Yeah. That was fun.
Or Diablos, that amazing winged demon you get from a magic lamp.
Yes, Diablos is fantastic.
His design is so creepy and otherworldly, and his dark messenger attack doing percentage damage made him essential against high HP bosses, a completely unique utility summon.
Totally agree. And then there are the truly bizarre ones like Pandemona, this strange bipedal creature with a giant trumpet for a head.
Weird. They're weird.
Or the spectral doom train, which looks like it crawled right out of Japanese ghost stories and demonology or something.
Definitely has that vibe.
Its runaway train attack inflicting like every negative status ailment. Pure chaos. I loved it.
And you can't forget the enemy types that became summons in FFV, Kakshor and Tonberry King.
Oh, yeah. Iconic.
Kakshor, with its simple, instantly recognizable design influenced by Japanese Hanyuo figures, apparently.
Ah, interesting.
And the signature 1,000 Needles attack. And the deceptively small, hooded Tonberry King just walking slowly towards you with that chef's knife. Both totally changed how you thought about those classic enemy types when you could summon them.
And Eden, the absolute pinnacle of GF spectacle in FF-V8. Pulled from the Ultima weapon, its design is this complex, incredible mix of organic and mechanical stuff.
It's wild.
And that Eternal Breath attack is just cosmic. It felt like summoning a god, seriously.
Beyond those main junctionable ones, you had the random helpers too, right?
Right.
Like Odin, who might just slice everyone with Zantetsuken at the start of battle.
Sometimes.
Sometimes replaced by the dimension-hopping Gilgamesh, wielding all those iconic weapons.
Or Phoenix, randomly swooping in to revive your whole party when things went south. Which happened.
Definitely needed sometimes. And smaller ones tied to minigames, like Boko from Chocobo World.
That's Chocobo World.
And later Minimog and Moomba via Renoa's Angelo searchability in the remaster. The variety was just immense.
It really was.
So the GFs and FFV8 really are this wild tapestry pulling from global mythology, pushing artistic boundaries, deeply integrated into a revolutionary and, yeah, sometimes frustrating game system, and tied directly to that central narrative conflict of memory loss. It was a huge swing for the series.
It absolutely was. And you see that reflected in the reception over the years, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Reviewers back in the day, like GameSpot and IGN, they generally gave it super high marks. They praised the visuals, the junction system's innovation, even if they noted it could be, quote, abused.
Yeah.
IGN even gave it a perfect 10 back then.
Wow, a perfect 10. Yeah, the initial buzz was strong. But player opinions have definitely been more divided over time.
For sure.
Some players found the depth of the junction system incredibly rewarding, loved optimizing their characters. Others found the constant drawing tedious and the system just too easily broken by card refinement.
Yeah, the triple triad loophole.
And the memory loss plot point. Some found it deeply compelling and tragic, while others felt it was confusing or maybe didn't land quite right narratively.
I think the ongoing debate about FFV8, and specifically its systems like junctioning, highlights a really interesting tension in game design, you know? Like, how much complexity is good? When does innovation become tedious? Does optimizing the fun out of the game count as good design? The fact that people are still arguing about whether the junction system is brilliant or broken, like 25 years later, shows what a lasting impact it had. It stuck with people.
And the legacy of these GFs is undeniable.
Yeah.
So many of them, Shiva, Ifrit, Bahamut, Odin, Leviathan, Carbuncle, Caxuar, Tonberry, they're now absolute staples of the Final Fantasy franchise.
Totally.
Appearing in games from Dissidia to Brave Exvius to World of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
They really cemented their place in the FF pantheon, didn't they? Often thanks to the unique interpretations or the central roles they had in FFV8, and the ones more unique to 8, like Brothers, Diablos, Doom Train, Eden. They really showcased the creative freedom the developers had at the time. It's fascinating to see which concepts resonated and sting around in the long run.
You know, one thing that's always stuck with me after reviewing all this material, considering the GFs are described as independent energy forces, and their origins are left kind of vague in the game itself.
Yeah.
Is there something more to them? Some theories suggest they could be pure magical energy given form, or maybe evolved monsters or entities tied to the collective unconscious of humanity, or even non-physical beings that manifest somehow.
That ambiguity feels deliberate, doesn't it?
I think so.
It leaves so much room for fan theories and interpretations, which is probably why discussions about FFV8's lore are still so active online. It's not just about their function in the game world, but what they might represent on a deeper, maybe even symbolic level.
Right. So GFs in Final Fantasy VIII were way more than just flashy summon animations. They were the core engine for character progression. They dictated that central loop of drawing and junctioning. They were tied directly to the main narrative conflict around memory, and they represented this wild blend of artistic vision and global mythology that continues to echo throughout the entire Final Fantasy series.
They're a really powerful example of how a game can take big swings with its mechanics and story, even if it leads to some divisive outcomes. It certainly makes the game unforgettable.
After hearing about all this, what really stands out to you about the Guardian Forces or the Junction system? For me, it's still how bold it was to completely abandon the MP system and tie progression so tightly to drawing and stocking magic. It's a design choice you just don't see very often, even now.
Yeah, that's true. For me, it's still that connection to memory loss, tying power gain directly to losing your past. That's dark.
It is.
And it adds such a unique layer of drama that influences every decision you make about how you play the game. It's a really powerful narrative device, even if, the plot gets a little convoluted later on.
Convoluted is another word for complex lore, right?
Yeah, we'll go with complex, sure.
All right, well, that wraps up our look into Final Fantasy VIII's Guardian Forces. Huge thanks again to Psyguy for putting all this great materials together for us.
Yes, seriously, thank you, Psyguy, and thank you for joining us on Psycast.
Remember, you're awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. Stay safe, stay sane.
Keep exploring those digital worlds, and maybe spend a little less time drawing magic next playthrough. Just a thought.